Good day to you. Hello, welcome to Hug Nation Live. We are going to share some gratitude and we're going to connect. I just realized I have not been singing a song every morning, and I think I know why. I was editing some of the archived morning into podcasts, and I realized that if you turned in for the first time to listen, and the first thing you heard was a kind of stumbly song, I don't think that would be an invitation to continue listening, except for a very niche market. So I have been, I think I just have been putting the songs on hold so that I don't repel anybody who might click on this to see what's this all about. Because this is a very simple idea. It's a place to come together and collectively, communally share gratitude and to remind ourselves that we are love ambassadors and we have the ability to share good energy with the world, with ourselves. So if today's a tough day, then tend you. Be a love ambassador to you. Give yourself self-care, give yourself forgiveness, give yourself rest. And if you feel resourced, then give those types of things to other people. What can you do to alleviate someone else's burden? What can you do to remind someone else that the world is filled with kind people? Today, it is Saturday, October 18th. Good morning, Gerbot. Good morning, Juan. Today is a day of nationwide protests or marches called No King's Day. I am not a uh, source of tons of information about it. I've not been studying up, but it it does make me think about things that I'm grateful for or have been grateful for. It is a reminder of some things that you take for granted, maybe can't take for granted. Things like a checks and balances democratic republic. And but I am grateful that as of today, the right to assemble and to protest is still very much a protected right in the United States. Juan says, I'm at the decompression in Oakland. I was able to help with the build yesterday and also today. This is so much fun. Oh, that sounds like a great way to spend some time. That sounds like a lot of fun. I hope you have just a beautiful experience there. And glad to hear that it was fun to build. Gerbot says, you can always edit the songs out of the podcast. Several other live streams I follow do something similar. I enjoy the live freestyle. Okay. Because usually there's not too many people here to hear it live anyways. You're right. I could just take it out of the archives. Good point. Thank you. Good morning, high noon. Good day. It is 9 here on the West Coast. Lisa has client work starting any minute, so I'm grateful for a little chance to say good morning to her and share my affection for her. I'm grateful for the opportunity last night to have some really tender moments. She's been working very hard on her multiple jobs, and I offered her a little back rub last night. So we have a massage table, so I set it up and gave her a nothing massive, like a 20-minute massage, and I'm so grateful to be able to tend to my partner's body and to share a moment of connection like that. Christina says, I am grateful for art. Saw an incredible play last night about an overlooked history about the Underground Railroad to Mexico. Wild how much back then is happening still now. Protest is key. The play is called Mexodus, and it is coming to Pasadena, California. Saw it in New York City, where I live. Mexodus, what a great name. Gurbat says, I'm grateful to live in a country that has enshrined the right to protest and for friends who will be joining me at the Capitol after this. I'm eager to hear what people's experiences are like today. I just got a notice this morning that said, wear yellow. Oh, I'm like, I do not own anything yellow. So that's going to be tough for me. I have, complicated feelings about protest and resistance, and not really. The complicated feelings I have are about the tone in which protest is engaged in. I have a friend who is very angry and is kind of in the attitude of, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And we have no choice but to be yelling loudly our discontent at all times. I went to a intimate performance, some 30 people in a house listening to some singers, and he wore a "Fuck Trump" shirt, and he seemed very confident that that is the kind of behavior that's required. And I was puzzled and not convinced, because I was wondering, in what way does that influence this group of like-minded people? And I'm on a text thread where people are talking about their plans to go to marches today. And he said, I got my outfit planned out, and it says, his hat says resist, which I'm fine with that. And then this shirt says, fuck Trump and fuck you for voting for him. And I understand that thought. I have certainly had that thought. But if I think through and try to understand how that expression will be received, I have trouble understanding the purpose or the intention or the results of that. Will it make someone angry? Maybe. What I think it does is it just simplifies the situation and allows anybody who is on the other side to dismiss you as my enemy. I don't think anyone comes into a conversation and when you say, fuck you, and fuck you for what you've done, and I don't know anyone who hears that and goes, boy, I don't want people to say fuck you to me. I would like to learn more about why you think that. I don't have a sign, but if I did, it would be something like pro-Constitution, 3 cheers for checks and balances, like judicial branch, save us. I think I'd be more about pro-Constitution or some quotes from the Constitution, because I think a message like that can be seen from someone who, in their mind, sees me as sees me as their enemy and go, oh, wait, I am also pro Constitution, or that's a good point, or gosh, all these people that I've been labeling as weak, whatever, snowflakes, woke, but that's actually maybe I need to. I, I- I'm pro Constitution. Why does the enemy have the same desires as me? Anywho, like I said, complicated, I guess. Chris says, I'm grateful to attend a No Kings rally later today as well. Juan says, as the last civil war, we lost 698,000 people, Americans killing Americans. We need to remember our history and not relive it again. God be with us. Us is USA. Christina says, there's something called righteous anger, channeling the rage into useful actions versus perpetuating the harms we have experienced, can have atonement and justice without similar cyclical harm. You, that's what I'm talking about. Um, there's the instinct to act in ways that are aggressive is a natural that is a very not I was even human. It's a animalistic lo- logical response. But um, you know, we just see it over and over and again. When I mean, sometimes you punch someone in the face and then they say, "Okay, I'm now scared or I'm never going to do anything." But often you punch someone in the face and they say, I'm going to learn karate. I'm going to start carrying a knife. I'm going to buy a gun. And if somebody punches me in the face again, or if I see someone punching someone else in the face, then I'm going to fucking kill them. So as we punch people in the face with our actions and our words, we are strengthening the divide. We are bolstering the resolve of people to maintain the division between us and them. And I don't understand how that leads to anything positive except for eventual violence, as I think as Juan said, like I I have not witnessed war in my lifetime in my world. There's been war overseas. And so I know veterans who have experienced war in other countries. But for the most part, my entire lifetime has been peaceful. And I understand how someone could have a romanticized notion of the glory of fighting. I mean, look at our movies and our video games, and there's we heroize fighting violently for righteousness. And we do a pretty poor job of educating the narrative of the costs of war psychologically and physically. And I think it's a scary, scary, scary notion. Gerbot says, that messaging is divisive. I prefer a positive or funny message. I agree. I think that, the purpose of a protest like this is hopefully I mean, I guess everyone has their own purpose, but to demonstrate that there are a lot of people that disagree with the direction of things. A lot of people, a lot of voters that and so many voters that this idea, that Trump is so powerful that people can't like politicians have to stay on his good side, that we start to change that story and politicians get emboldened and say, you know what, there are a lot of people out there um, that need to be represented and that it's not political suicide to stand up to Trump or to the the machine that is the Project 2025. Svob Svobd Svobodnyk. Hello. Hello to you in Siberia. What a treat to say hello and have you a part of my day. Is there anything that you're grateful for that you'd like to share? I know that I'm speaking a little bit more politically, a lot more politically than I have lately. I used to get a little bit more involved, but since it is, potentially the largest day of protest in U.S. history, it seems like a relevant topic. And thanks for your patience for those of you not in the USA. Thanks for being here, Svobodo, Svobodny. Um, Heinemann says, I'm trying to keep love in my heart with curiosity of why those voted or support any party or being that we see as the other. It is more complex than we see. And you got to keep in mind, or I got to keep in mind, that we're all a product of our brainwashing. As I watched the political presidential debates and I noticed my revulsion at one candidate and my cheering for another, I kept reminding myself that there's millions of people who are having the exact opposite reaction from the exact same thing, the same words, same mannerisms. One person's cheering while I'm repelled. And so when you have a world where the media, the vast majority, like nearly all media, is being controlled by a handful of very rich individuals that have a agenda that is self-serving. The brainwashing that's going on is intense. And it's so easy to get caught up in an idea of what news is, what reality is, that is very different from someone who has chosen a different route of brainwashing. If you and I are in agreement, it is because we have chosen the brainwashing in a similar vein. And the only way we ever really get through this is kind of having some understanding and being like, hey guys, we're all being manipulated here. So how can we find some common interests and common awarenesses and some sophistication around how this controlled messaging of our collective brainwashing is creating an environment that does nothing but benefit this super powerful, super wealthy international conglomerate and uh, set of people. Okay, let's get back to some gratitude. Who's got something that they're grateful for? I'm grateful for yummy dinner that Lisa made us last night. And and I am grateful for a good night's sleep. I'm grateful for a chance. I spent a lot of yesterday editing video of my grandpa, and so that was really. It's always fun to sit with his words and his energy and the vibe. It's like, yeah, I love him so much, and he's such a inspiration to me. So to be able to spend the day editing his words, and then I got to share some of his stuff with Lisa last night, and that was really fun to be able to share with her and introduce her a little bit more. I'm also grateful for a book by Don Rosenthal that I have been listening to, which is Lisa's mentor. Like Lisa's version of Grandpa Caleb was Don Rosenthal, who passed earlier this year. And so I've been listening to one of his books, and man, that guy is a smart and evolved dude. What is the book? It is called The Uncharted Journey by Don Rosenthal. And he's reading it, so you can hear his voice, which is also cool because when I met him, he was quite old, and his Parkinson's affected his speech a little bit. So to hear a younger version of him reading this book that is like, is great. And he's like, Grandpa Caleb is a superhero in terms of love and gratitude, but Don is a superhero in terms of philosophy, spirituality, relationship, and like contemplation. Like, he is wise. So I've really been enjoying that by Don Rosenthal. Christina says, yes, tons of conditioning through dehumanizing storytelling. It's a historical pattern that keeps the status quo. Telling truthful history locally and personally combats it. Love that. Valletta says, I'm dressed and ready for my local march where many will stand for goodness. So grateful for a crowd today and you folks. Thank you for sharing. It's going to be an exciting day. I'm getting more pumped. Gerbot says, I feel it's my civic duty to stand up for the principles that this country was founded on and what makes it us so unique in the world, and to push back against fascism. That resonates deeply with me. One of the most difficult things of the past year for me has been noticing how much of my identity, part of the like deep down feeling of being a man of honor, is being rooted in the values of being an American. Values like freedom of speech, like separation of church and state, like due process, and like when I was young and rebellious, and I would rant against the corruption in the United States, my dad would say things like, it's a horrible system, but it's the best that we've got. Look around the way there's so many countries in this world that are so much more corrupt. And there's really pretty much a 0% chance that someone is going to break into your house in the middle of the night and haul you off into a secret prison because of your political views. And that's just not the case all over the world. And so I've always had this sense of, we have corruption, but we also, like, if you get caught being corrupt, then there are consequences. We don't stand for that. We don't torture, I mean, these things have that used to be. I grew up thinking we didn't torture. But so many of those like principles of what we do right and what we can be proud about, that gives us a little bit of that. Part of it is that knowing that we do some things righteously makes our colonialism and the things we do in other countries have a little less sting, because it's done with the backing of integrity and at some level, but all of that has dissolved. And what I didn't expect was what that did to my personal identity and my personal sense of pride in who I am as a man. And so standing up for the principles that this country was founded on is important. Thanks, Gerbot. Juan says, I'm grateful for the ability to see the peace that we do have. Yeah. That was in the book I was reading this morning from Don Rosenthal. He occasionally will do something like, imagine that you're dead and then you wake up and then like suddenly you appreciate everything. And he's like, imagine you are imprisoned in a windowless room and then you're set free. And imagine the appreciation you would have for fresh air, for the breeze, for the most ordinary of bushes and grass and insects and birds, and put in that list peace. I'm so grateful that I spend most of my days without ever feeling that I'm in danger. That is easy to take for granted. Christina says, this reveals what's always been true. The country has never lived up to the founding values, and it's what should be strived for and model. That's also true. That's also part of the growing up and realizing that there's a difference between the ideals and the reality. But even so, like, I think one of the things that led to where we are is that anger and bitterness, the more people realize that how we're falling short of the ideals. And so there's this feeling of like, we're not hitting those ideals, so the system is fucked and broken. Let's destroy the system. And it's like, my opinion, my belief is that it is dangerous to think that if you destroy the broken system, that what will be replaced is a better system. Very often in history, you see that when a government is toppled, or that what takes its place is not a more just and peaceful regime. But maybe I'm thinking short term. Maybe I was reading this part of the Gene Keys. It says, maybe everything that's happening is according to nature's plan, including our destruction of the planet. Who are we to know that that is not the divine path that is being led by something cosmic, that we are intended to be the parasitic force that we are supposed to be, and we are intended, that there's nothing wrong with this. But that being said, all we can do is play our parts in integrity. And for many of us, I think that means marching today. Christina says, grateful for awareness so we can all live values aligned and authentically instead of in denial of the truth or change. Yes. Heinlein says, healing those we see as the other and not revenge will help the world be a better place. I certainly agree with that. And I certainly believe that I don't know how to fight the momentum of this country right now. But I do know that fighting to heal ourselves and to fight for the spiritual heart liberation for others and to help people and to encourage people to be more compassionate and loving, that it seems like those are separate paths, but I think they're connected. And while the path of political action, I don't know exactly what is effective, but I do know many ways that we can work as love ambassadors and love warriors to increase the compassion in the world. So let's do that. I mean, we can do both, but let's definitely do that. Yamil says, hello, family. Today I'm grateful for all of you. I will be assisting in a Humane Society event, so no march for me, but I support the No Kings movement. Juan says, even if the Big Bang happens over and over, what we do today still matters. Annalise says, grateful to make it. Love y'all. Well, I'm glad you made it. And with that, wherever you are, let's settle into a hug and appreciate this moment of freedom, this moment where we are able to speak freely and share our thoughts and encourage one another and have hope for positive change in the future, for more justice, less corruption, more liberation of the hearts and minds and lives for everyone around the world. Let's hope and believe that that is possible and model our lives in a way that we demonstrate that in our choices, our actions. Let's take a deep breath in and squeeze. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all of us here, thank you for being here, sharing your gratitude and your love and your hearts and your passion. Have a beautiful day. Stay peaceful. Stay safe. I love you.